Leaving behind now our startup track, it seems a poignant time with everything going on outside for a little personal reflection on our career decisions and future career path. On that basis, we welcome Erica Sosna. Erica is an experienced career coach and expert in the future world of work. She's made it her job to help us to discover how to have clarity and confidence in our career decisions. Whether you're reflecting on your current career or have ever wondered if you're in the right job, join her for this talk, where she'll introduce the career equation, a simple and powerful model that puts you in charge of your direction and your future.
Hello everyone, I'm Erica Sosna and I'm here broadcasting from my living room, as we all are, to share with you some insights as part of the Silicon Brighton initiative about how to make the most out of your career. So wherever you find yourself today and whatever your circumstance, self-employed, currently furloughed, newly redundant, carrying on business as usual, maybe business is busier than ever, wherever you find yourself on the spectrum, it's worth us taking an opportunity now to take stock, to reflect on the story so far in your career and the opportunities that reflection might create for us. We're in this really disrupted, unusual time, and in that time is a really good opportunity to just consider, what does work mean to me? How is it going for me? What kind of experiences might I be looking for, and how might I be looking to shift that after the lockdown is over? And that might be anything from a couple of tweaks to just refine your current area of work, to a chance to really choose something different and step into something new. So wherever you are and whatever questions you might be asking, I hope that this practical session today will support you to achieve your goals. So a little bit about me, about who you're looking at. My name's Erica, I'm Brighton based, and I've been working for the last 15 years or so as a career coach. I've helped people from the age of 10 to their mid to late 70s to change direction, find a new goal and aspiration around their work, and create fulfillment and clarity. I'm the author of a book called Your Life Plan, and I'm currently working on a second one called The Career Equation. Both of these books are all about how to find purpose, direction, and clarity using some of the simple models that I'm going to introduce you to today. Day to day, when I'm not presenting, I'm a consultant and coach in the space of careers and the future world of work. And my company, Career Matters, works with companies like Amazon, MasterCard, Capital One to help them to think about clarifying career direction for their talent and to improve mobility and retention for their people. So why would you trust me? Well, I've been working in this space for a really long time. And in fact, back in the day, it was about 12 years ago now, I set up a social enterprise called the Life Project. The purpose of the Life Project was to help young people to unlock their potential by having greater clarity between their self-knowledge and the world of work. I found that there was a real gap within the educational system that didn't really help them to align the subjects they were good at or the things that they enjoyed with the opportunities that existed in the 21st century world of work. And so over a period of 5 years, I worked with hundreds of young people in schools, colleges, universities, through charities, and in places as diverse as New Zealand, the States, India, and Bulgaria, to test out some methods to enable them to really discover what mattered to them and how to develop a career plan based on that. That work then became the work that I'm going to share with you now. So I started to discover that actually there were adults also thinking about, what do I want to be when I grow up? So I wanted to see whether the method applied. And what I discovered is that actually this method applies regardless of age, industry, stage of life, identity, gender, all sorts of things. It's a human method. If you are a human being, you will derive benefit from it. So I'm really excited to share with you today the tools that we're going to look at. In my company, we say that our aspiration is to reunite people with their gifts. And I use the word reunite because I wonder if you, like many others, myself included, have found that sometimes the world of work takes you away from the things that you really love or the things that you know that you're extremely good at. And there's a variety of reasons why that happens. It can be social pressures, it can be the opportunities presented at that time, it can be the hopes and dreams of your parents, but perhaps not yours, are the ones that you choose to follow initially. But we believe that when we help you to reconnect and reunite yourself with your core strengths, that's when each of us can make a remarkable, positive social contribution. And we believe that that is part of what makes work truly fulfilling. So here's a little number for you, 80,000. 80,000 is the number of hours that you will spend at work. If you work full time, and I made a calculation between your early 20s and your mid to late 60s and offered a generous amount of time off for sabbaticals, holidays, maternity, and all of those things. 80,000 hours. 80,000 hours is a lot of time. You can do a lot of things in 80,000 hours. You know, if the 10,000 hour rule is correct, which says that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to become a master, a mistress, really truly accomplished at something, 80,000 hours of your lifetime could mean 8 different subjects that you became a total master at. Imagine that. What would you choose? Languages, instruments, technological skill sets, artistic skill sets, scientific skill sets, physical prowess. 80,000 hours is a lot of time. In fact, you will probably spend more time working than you will day to day with the people that you love and cherish the most. So take a moment to think about the last time that you organized or planned a holiday, or perhaps a big event like a wedding or a birthday party. I'm willing to bet that you spent a good amount of time doing some research, thinking about the budgets, maybe getting some competitive quotes, taking into consideration and chatting to other people about what might be fun and what's worked before and places you should see and things you should do. Now consider, did you spend as much time thinking about your career choice, about how you spend these 80,000 hours, as you did on your plans for your 2 weeks for camping in the south of France, or your 21st birthday party? Interesting, right? So even though we know that we're going to spend a huge amount of time at work, even though we know that work is a massive determinant, not just of financial stability, but of sense of identity, of satisfaction, of well-being, of purpose and direction, we tend to have not spent as much time as perhaps we could have done, or perhaps it deserved, investing in the question of what's going to work for me, what do I want out of work, and what might I like to choose. Now, before I go on to helping us to explore how we might sort of alleviate that gap and step back in time a little bit, I want first to just get clear about our terms. So when I talk about career, I don't necessarily think about a linear progression within a very specific profession, becoming more senior and earning more money. I'm more interested in the kinds of experiences that you want to have and how you make choices about those experiences. So I describe a career as a series of choices that you make where you explore how you align what you're good at, your gifts, with how you spend your time, your lifetime, and how you make your money. So a triad between skill sets, time spent, and investment and return. And I use that combination very specifically because, of course, there are worthwhile investments of your time that don't make you any money. There are worthwhile investments of your gifts that also aren't about money. Career is about a very specific exchange of your value for a financial value, for a financial exchange. And so, of course, there are valuable things that you will invest in, but won't be about generating a return. And I use this idea of choice very deliberately because I believe that the world of work is going through a fundamental shift. We've already seen that the time that someone spends in a role is getting shorter and shorter, that we become more mobile across industries and more flexible about how our skill sets could adapt and how we might change direction. And it's anticipated that young people leaving school right now will have up to 10, 15 different roles throughout their working lifetime, at least, and may have a portfolio of careers or make several pivots in their careers over their working life. So a moment to pause and just have a think about, and I'd love to hear your comments and chat about this. What was careers advice like for you? When it came to that choice point, and that choice point feels very early in life, where we are supposed to align what subjects we might want to study or our next move in terms of education, apprenticeships, or first employment with our previous history of studying subjects at school. How was that done? Was it done at all? Who did it? Was it any good? Who was it that helped you to generate that insight? I'm willing to bet, again, that most of you listening didn't have a great experience of careers. And there's a very specific reason for that, which is that our educational systems are judged on your success in your exams and where you go next. They aren't judged on how fulfilling did that person was that person's career in the longer term. And this is important because it means that a very crucial element of education, aligning you and your knowledge of yourself with the world of work, has been missing. And there's a consequence for that, which is that most of us fell into our careers rather than chose them. We fell into our career rather than chose them. And maybe you fell well. Maybe you arrived in an organization or an area of work that actually suited your skill set quite well, and you navigated skillfully from there on. Or maybe, like me, you had I had lots of sort of Saturday jobs and little jobs when I was working in my teens. But when it came to choosing a career, I applied to the civil service thinking I wouldn't get in, and that later on I could make a different decision. And 9 months later, I did get into the civil service fast stream. So in some ways, I did make a choice. But what I didn't really think about was how well that would align with who I was and what I like to do. So maybe you did the same. For me, there was a fairly good alignment around the subject matter. I studied social history, and a fairly good alignment about the sort of aims and aspirations of central government. And it was certainly a very interesting place to work. But what I didn't really consider was whether the culture of that kind of organisation would suit me. And how would I necessarily know at 20 years old, 21 years old, what kind of environment would suit me best? But as a result, I spent a lot of time struggling to re-find my way. And so the tools that I'm introducing you to now are all designed to help you to save some of that time, or to make a really conscious choice, perhaps for the first time in your working life. So here's our first question, our first sort of key for the work we're doing together today. How do you define success in your career? Now, this might sound like a very obvious question. You might think, well, everybody defines it in the same way, don't they? We're certainly bombarded with a particular definition of success, which is about status, it's about money, it's about seniority. And for example, the focus for getting more women on boards assumes that women define success by being at a very senior level. Well, some of us might not. But the truth is that for you as an individual, you are constantly being bombarded with different perspectives about what success is. That might come from your family context, it might come from your education, it might come from friends. It will certainly have, you've certainly ingested things through media and social media, and all of those things are designed to have a perspective about what success looks and feels like. But the truth is that the only person who really knows what success looks like for you is you. And it's often a moment of truth, a moment of aha, when we allow the quiet voice inside of us to really speak out and tell us what success looks and feels like for us. Now, this is borne out in engagement data. When you look at employee engagement and what makes people feel thriving and successful at work, here's the surprise. It isn't loads of money. It isn't seniority. Sometimes recognition is important, and financial recognition may be a part of that. Recognition of you doing a good job, of the value that you add, of the contribution that you've made, sure. But actually the top scoring things when people talk about success and fulfillment are interesting and meaningful work. And of course, what I think is interesting, what you think is interesting are going to be different. And more opportunities to do what I do best, which means aligning your gifts with how you spend your time and make your money, right? So being able to work more in the areas of strength and capability that you feel you have expertise in, and applying that in an interesting and meaningful way. These two elements are closely followed by flexibility and autonomy. So being able to work on your terms, having an environment that works for you, whether that is the geography of it or the hours that you spend or the autonomy that you're given. So just take a moment to have a think about it. How do you define success in your career? And what is it that you're measuring at the moment that genuinely drives your satisfaction? So maybe the amount of times you get home in time to give your kid a bath and a story in bed. It might be the amount of times that you get to travel. It might be the opportunities you get to be involved in an interesting project. What is it for you? How do you define success in your career? And incidentally, if you do define it by progression and more money, that's totally valid too. I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm just saying that actually the expanse of perspectives about how we define success is important, and that you knowing what that quieter voice inside of you says is important about work for you, is fulfilling about work for you, is really important. So let me show you a way to kind of suss that out and to be able to drill down to it in a little bit more detail. And this is what a model I've devised called the career equation. It's a word equation, so it doesn't chuck out a number and give you an answer. It's a way of reducing the factors with which we decide what works and doesn't work in our career. And the reason I developed this is because, first of all, too much choice is overwhelming. So career is a very environmental and emotional topic. So we have a lot of things invested in it. It's complicated. And the more criteria you have, the more likely you are to become overwhelmed. And the more overwhelmed that you become and the more emotional you become about it, the more you're likely to be paralyzed and unable to make a good choice. So what I wanted to do was to help my clients to identify the key criteria that really matter to them so that they could confidently make decisions about their careers, and also have the insight and discovery of why a previous role or opportunity didn't work. Perhaps it looked great on paper, but then when you were there, it just didn't really float your boat. So I want to take you through the equation now, and then I'm going to give you some questions to trigger your own thinking about your own career equation. So in the career equation, we say that there are three key components that define, in a way, your character. The first is, what is it that you are good at? We want you to work in an area of natural strength, skill, and capability, because we know that people tend to thrive and do well when they're working in their natural disposition. Now, of course, we have capabilities beyond our natural disposition. So my natural disposition, I learned to speak before I could walk. So I've always been very into words and stories and communication, and that's my disposition. Can I manage my bank account or manage a project? Yes, of course I can do those things. But my area of real gift and genius is using words to explain ideas. So what are the skills, the things that you are naturally really good at? And in fact, that your family and friends would say just come as naturally to you as breathing. The second is looking at your area of passion. Passion, there's a lot of bluster at the moment about finding your passion being really important, and it is. But let me tell you how we define passion at Career Matters. So we say that passion is made of one of two things. One, it's a subject matter that you love. Yeah. So I might love history, culture, travel, food. Or it's a way of being or doing that you love so much that you lose track of time. That could be exploring, researching, solving tricky problems, creating a system or a process to do something really efficiently. So a passion is something that makes you feel curious. It's something that you care about. So we want you to apply your skills to an area of passion, to an area that you care about. And we want to know what generates the most sense of fulfillment and success. Impact, we call this impact. So I asked you, how do you define success? And impact is related to two things. It's related to you on a very personal basis, what makes me feel successful. So something that makes me feel successful is when I know I've been useful and helpful to someone else in their life. But it also makes me feel successful when I know that I have flexibility and autonomy to create my own thing. That to me feels like a very successful life. So impacts can be out there. They can have a benefit to others, or even play on a very big world stage. Like I've committed to help. I've been made a contribution towards reducing environmental damage, or reducing plastic. So it might be a big idea that you play into. It could be a benefit for your customers, clients, colleagues. I'm helpful in some way. Or it could be a benefit to you. Yeah. I get to do the things that I love every day. Yeah. Or I've made $1 million by the time I'm 30. Whatever that definition of success is for you. And those three things above the line really tell you and your coach, if you're working with them, lots about your character. What are you good at? What do you care about? And how do you define success? Underneath the line, we have the question of environmental fit, which is fundamentally where and how are you at your best? How do you get yourself into an environment where you can do really good work? An environment can be anything from the pace at which an organization works. It could be that you like to work in a very quiet, relaxed environment. It could be that you love buzz and to be around loads of people. It could be that you like to specialize, or it could be that you like to work in lots of different projects. It could be indoors or outdoors. It could be warm climates or cold climates. So environment is all about, if you like, the soil in which we put the plant that is you, and the things above the line are the ways that we define and discover what kind of plant we've got. So the analogy I use for this is you are like a cactus. A cactus is a specific genus of plant. It has a specific set of qualities and factors that enable it to thrive in the desert. It's very efficient in its use of water. It's got these little spikes so that marauding animals don't discover, that looks juicy, and have a bite out of it. It's optimally designed to survive in a particular environment and to thrive in that environment. So you too are like a cactus. You have a specific set of qualities and criteria that mean that you are best suited to a particular kind of work in a particular kind of environment. Now, nobody else but you can tell you what that is. People may be able to offer you insight and perspective, but they won't have the answer. The great news is you do. Simply by asking the questions to yourself that I'm going to share with you and giving some thought to how I define success, you can get super clear about what is right for you. And on the back of that, make some really good quality choices. Whether that choice is, actually this work or this organization really suits me and I just want to do some more of it, or whether it's, okay, I see now that my design was really made for this, and how am I going to make a plan for me to get there? So here are the 4 questions I'm going to invite you to consider, and I'd love to hear your comments, thoughts, feedback, your insights on each of these. And each of these is designed for a specific component of the equation. The first question is, what are you really good at? Yeah, so answer for yourself, make a list, talk to somebody about it. What are you really good at? And don't just limit that to the work that you're doing now. Think about yourself in the round. Because actually people make great livings out of making people laugh. They make great livings out of being a great cook. They make good livings out of being really curious about the world and the places you can travel in it. So have a think about, first of all, what are your skills? What are you really good at? Secondly, think about passion. And thinking about passion, the question to ask is, what do you love? What do you love? And again, think about it really broadly. I love cats, for example. I do. Would I make a profession out of it? Actually, maybe I would. But what we're doing here right now is to just think about it in the round so that later you can start to identify which of the 2 or 3 things from the big list that I made that actually I would love to be making an income out of. Because there might be some things that you really, truly love that you don't necessarily want to make a living out of. And I'm sure that in what I love will be for the people that you love. And you're probably not planning to sell granny. So those things are going to go out of the list in terms of your career equation, but of course stay close to you in terms of your life. Yeah. So thirdly, we've got impact. How do you define what really matters to you? So the question to ask is, when it comes down to it, what really matters to me? What really, really matters to me? And what makes me feel like I am being successful in my work? So this might be a slightly shorter list, but try to put yourself in the perspective of days or weeks or months that have been really phenomenal, that have gone really well, you felt really successful, or perhaps a particular project or something that you achieved that really mattered to you. And think also, with the context of work in my life and me existing in the world, me having this life in the world and doing some work, what are the kinds of contributions or legacies that might make me feel proud? Where do I want to make a contribution that feels like a lasting impact that I could make? So have a think about that and make a list for that. And then last one is environment. Where do you do your best work? What is the soil that we need to put you in so that you are going to truly thrive in the workplace? And think about it in the micro detail of the space and place in which you work and the kind of environment for that. And think about it in the macro detail of the kinds of cultures perhaps or values that need to be around the work that you do, or maybe the scale of the organization. Do you like to work in a close-knit environment, or do you love to be part of something global and exciting? So here are your 4 questions. And once you've had a chance to just do a big brainstorm, thinking about you as a whole person, then I want you to start looking at these lists and knocking things out on the basis of, I don't necessarily want to make money spending my time doing that thing. Yeah. So you eliminate things on the basis that money isn't necessarily aligned with this particular thing. It doesn't mean it's not important to me, but I'm not thinking about it in the context of career. Okay. When you're there, you should have just a much narrower set of criteria. And from that criteria, you can then start to judge the role you're in now, the kinds of work or jobs that you think that you might be interested in doing. And if you now have a list, but you have no idea who does that out in the world, well, now you have a good piece of research. Who uses these skills in this area of passion to have this impact and work in this kind of environment? So very simply again, the career equation is about defining what creates a thriving career for you, using your skills, passion, and impact in the right environment to create a good quality environmental fit. So I want you to use the equation. Let me know what you come up with. Share it with me. Drop me a line on email, on LinkedIn, in the chat here. Remember that what we're focusing on is the kinds of experiences that you want to be having out of your work. Worry less about what is that profession called and what the qualifications for it, and worry more about how might I create more of the experiences of doing this more often. And focus for the beginning on working out what you want and then how you could get it. Don't worry or be stalled by, I don't know how to get there, or I don't know if I've left it too late, or I don't know what qualifications I need. Somehow the path to clarity arises when you know what it is that you are heading for. And once you know what you're heading for, the quick question then is, how could I go out there and make that happen? So I'm happy to answer your questions now, get your feedback, your thoughts, your views. Would love to continue the conversation with you beyond the time that we have here. And thank you so much for participating and attending and fundraising through this wonderful initiative to support all these people who are so generously committing their life, work and energy to helping all of us thrive in this global pandemic. So thank you again for participating today. And if you'd like to find out more and investigate more of these tools for yourselves, you can find Your Life Plan, the book I wrote some years ago, on Amazon. You can download it onto Kindle, listen to it on Audible, get yourself a £2 copy secondhand to check out the tools and insights around this book. And one last thing, we are a B1G1 business, which is a buy one, give one business. What that means is that as a result of you tuning in today, we'll be making a contribution for everybody that listens to this session today. We will be giving a day's entrepreneurship training to a woman somewhere else in the world via the buy one, give one platform. So thank you very much for helping not just yourself and your own career, but another woman somewhere else in the world. So do stay in touch. I'm Erica. I run this organisation called Career Matters, and we believe that self-knowledge changes lives. So if you want to find out more, you can check out the blog. There's loads of thought leadership there for you about how to make the most of your career, how to have good quality career conversations with your teams, with your boss, with your employees, with yourself. And I thank you very, very much for attending today. All the best. Bye-bye.